Hey there, sleepyheads, and welcome back to Boring History for Sleep. As you settle into your most comfortable spot, perhaps with a soft blanket and the gentle hum of the world fading around you, let's take a journey back in time. Tonight, we're not just revisiting the past. You're stepping directly into the daily tapestry of life during the Roman Empire at its majestic, formidable peak. If this calm exploration of forgotten eras brings you a moment of peace, a gentle subscribe and a soft tap on the like button are always appreciated, and do feel free to share a quiet hello in the comments below, letting us know where you're drifting from tonight. Allow your mind to softly drift as we journey back to an empire that truly shaped the world, experiencing what it was like to simply be there day in and day out. You awaken not to the gentle chime of an alarm, but to the first hint of pre-dawn light filtering through a small high window, or perhaps simply the growing cacophony of the city stirring outside your opulent domus. If you are one of the fortunate few, a patrician, your sprawling urban villa is a testament to wealth and power. You stretch, feeling the coolness of the marble floor beneath your bare feet, as you rise from a bed adorned with fine linens and plush cushions. The air here within your private sanctuary is still and clean, perhaps carrying the faint lingering scent of exotic incense from last night's offerings to the household gods. Your domus isn't just a house, it's a meticulously designed world unto itself, a fortress of comfort and status in the heart of a bustling city. You move through rooms arranged around a central atrium, an open-air courtyard that serves as the lungs of your home, drawing in light and air. You might pause by the impluvium, the shallow pool nestled below the atrium's opening, where rainwater collects, reflecting the sky above like a polished obsidian mirror. The walls around you are adorned with vibrant frescoes depicting scenes from mythology or daily life, their colours still remarkably vivid after decades, even centuries. Every step you take is a journey through artistry, past intricate mosaics underfoot that tell stories in tiny coloured stones. Your home boasts multiple dining rooms or triclinium, each sized for different occasions, from intimate family meals to grand banquets. There are numerous bedrooms or curbicula, a private kitchen bustling with slaves already preparing the morning meal, and your tablinum, a study or office where you'll soon conduct the day's business or receive clients. Sometimes attached to your domus are shops or offices, a convenient way to integrate your commercial interests directly into your living space, allowing you to oversee your ventures with minimal fuss. You appreciate the cool, echoing silence of the atrium on a hot afternoon, the subtle glint of sunlight on elaborate mosaics, or the almost imperceptible scent of rose oil wafting from your private gardens. This is your reality, a life cocooned in beauty, privacy and relative peace, far removed from the grinding struggle that defines existence for most others in this grand empire. Yet as you stir from your patrician slumber, your experience is an almost alien concept to the vast majority of Romans. For them, the morning doesn't begin with the serene quiet of a marble atrium, but with the jarring symphony of the city outside, amplified, raw, and relentlessly immediate. This is the reality of the Insulae, the towering multi-story apartment buildings that house the common Romans, the plebeians in bustling urban centres like Rome. Imagine yourself here, waking on a thin mattress laid on the floor, the first light of day struggling to penetrate the gloom of your small single room. You're not alone. Perhaps your entire family shares this one space, the air thick with the accumulated smells of sleep-stale food and the undeniable presence of other human beings in close quarters. These structures, reaching 6 or even 7 stories high, were architectural marvels of their own kind, though perhaps not for their elegance. They were built rapidly and cheaply, often with timber frames and shoddy brickwork, a testament to the insatiable demand for housing in a booming city. You learn quickly that fire is not a distant concept, but a very real constant threat. You live with the knowledge that a cooking fire gone awry on a lower floor, or even just a carelessly dropped lamp, could turn your entire building into a roaring inferno in minutes. The higher you live, the cheaper the rent, but also the more precarious your existence. Upper floors built with less robust materials and less attention to stability were notorious for being prone to collapse. You might feel the building creak and groan during a heavy storm, a chilling reminder of your vulnerability, a constant low thrum of anxiety beneath the surface of daily life. Your apartment is by any modern standard tiny and cramped. It's often a single room serving as your living space, dining area and bedroom all at once. There's no private kitchen, no study, certainly no private bath. You wake to the constant din of activity that permeates the thin shared walls. The murmur of your neighbours' conversations, the cries of street vendors hawking their wares, below the clatter of carts on cobblestones, the distant rhythmic clang of a blacksmith's hammer. It's a vibrant, overwhelming and utterly inescapable symphony of city life. Forget about running water. If you need water for cooking or washing, you're off to the public fountain juggling amphorae, or relying on a slave if you're lucky enough to afford one. Sanitation. That's a trip to the communal latrines, a stark public affair, or perhaps a chamber pot that you empty into the street below, hoping to avoid hitting anyone. You recognise the familiar, slightly acrid smell that hangs in the air of the lower floors, a blend of refuse and humanity, a constant companion that your nose has learned to mostly ignore. The contrast between your existence and that of the patrician, as glimpsed through fleeting encounters or the stories carried by the wind, is a chasm. Their domus offers lavish comfort, absolute privacy, and a relative safety that you can only dream of. Your insula offers cramped, vulnerable, and often unsanitary conditions that vividly highlight Rome's vast socio-economic divide. While they enjoy the luxury of private baths within their homes or interact minimally with the wider populace for their hygiene, you, like most others, rely entirely on the bustling public facilities. This isn't just a matter of convenience. It's a fundamental difference in access to daily necessities, to leisure, and ultimately to the very quality of your lived experience. You might find yourself, after lugging water up 5 flights of stairs, envying the patrician's bath, a concept as fantastical as a self-filling goblet. As you navigate the narrow shadowed alleys of your insula, your stomach begins its familiar rumble. Your morning meal, the irontaculum, will be a simple affair designed for quick sustenance rather than indulgence. For you, a common Roman, and for the countless others who form the bedrock of this colossal empire, the diet is nourishing but monotonous, built upon the sturdy foundation of grains. You'll break a piece of coarse, dense bread, perhaps made from wheat or barley baked fresh, but without the refined lightness of the elite's loaves. Alongside it, a chunk of hard cheese, perhaps some olives. Their salty tang a welcome burst of flavour, and a handful of dried fruits. Figs or dates, a touch of sweetness to start your day. Sometimes, if you're fortunate, there might be a few seasonal vegetables, perhaps some onions or leeks pulled from a nearby market stall or a small garden plot if you're in a rural area. This forms the core of your daily sustenance: bread, cheese, olives, and a rotating cast of lentils and beans. Meat, you understand, is a luxury, a treat reserved for rare festivals or the tables of the truly wealthy. You might occasionally get a piece of fish or seafood, especially if you live near the coast or a major river, providing a modest source of protein. But mostly it is the earthy, satisfying texture of that fresh-baked peasant bread, the robust smell of simmering lentils, the briny punch of olives that define your meals. It's a diet that keeps you going, that fuels your body for the day's labour, but it offers little in the way of culinary adventure. You learn to appreciate the subtle variations in the bread, the different ways lentils can be spiced, finding comfort in the familiar. Later in the day, your midday meal, the prandium, is often even quicker and simpler than breakfast. It's typically eaten cold, a handful of leftovers from the morning, or perhaps a small portion of the same staples consumed on the go, perhaps at your workbench, or in a brief pause from your tasks. This isn't a leisurely affair. It's merely a refuelling stop before the main event, the cena, in the late afternoon or early evening when the day's work begins to wind down and the oppressive heat of midday starts to recede. Your lips, you notice, are often dry enough to crack if you smile too widely, a common sensation in the dry Roman climate, and you understand the importance of hydration. A common beverage, pusca, a sour wine diluted with water, is your constant companion. It's consumed at all meals, a practical choice not just for taste but also for its mild antiseptic properties, making water safer to drink. You recognise its familiar taste, a blend of tartness and refreshment, a truly ubiquitous part of Roman life, reflecting the widespread availability of wine throughout the empire. It's a simple drink for a simple life, a stark counterpoint to the elaborate concoctions favoured by the elite. Now shift your perspective. Imagine yourself no longer the common plebeian, but a guest at an elite Roman banquet, a cena hosted by a wealthy patrician. The air here is different, thick with the scent of exotic spices, fine perfumes and roasting meats, a world away from the common smells of the Insulae. You recline on a plush couch, one of three arranged around a low table, your arm propped on a cushion, a posture of relaxed indulgence. This isn't just a meal. It's a performance, a meticulously choreographed display of wealth status and refined taste. The feast is a multi-course affair, stretching over several hours, each dish more extravagant than the last. You might find roasted peacock, its feathers carefully reassembled for dramatic presentation, or succulent stuffed dormice, a delicacy that might seem peculiar to your modern palate but is highly prized here. There are dishes you can barely identify, concoctions of fruits, nuts and honey all artfully arranged. The variety is staggering, a deliberate overabundance designed to impress and delight. And then there are the whispers perhaps of even more exotic fare. Flamingo tongues or the prize nightingale pâté, though you hope these remain whispers. This is gastronomy pushed to its absolute limits, a testament to the host's ability to procure the rarest ingredients from the furthest reaches of the empire. As you dine, fine wines are poured, often diluted with water, as was the custom to allow for longer enjoyment and to prevent excessive intoxication too early in the evening. The conversation flows punctuated by the gentle strumming of a lyre or the melodic tones of a flautist. Dancers might entertain, or perhaps a poet recites verses transforming the meal into a full sensory experience. The presentation of each dish is paramount. Slaves move with silent efficiency, presenting platters adorned with garnishes and decorative elements, each a tiny work of art. This isn't merely about eating. It's about social performance, about reinforcing bonds, making connections, and subtly asserting your place within the intricate hierarchy of Roman society. You observe the subtle cues, the way one guest might defer to another, the carefully chosen words, the knowing glances. And then there's garum, a constant presence, the ubiquitous flavour enhancer. You've encountered it countless times, but here it might be a particularly fine vintage, perhaps from the prize factories of Hispania. This fermented fish sauce with its powerful umami punch is to the Romans what salt is to you. It's added to nearly every dish, savoury or sometimes even sweet, its complex flavour profile elevating even the simplest ingredients. You understand why its production was a substantial industry, with factories often located on the outskirts of towns due to its notoriously overpowering smell, a distinct industrial reality of the time. You as a guest are expected to appreciate this subtle, pungent condiment, to recognise its quality and its indispensable role in Roman cuisine, completing the sensory experience of an elite Roman meal. Leaving the aromatic world of the elite banquet, you find yourself transported quite abruptly to the steamy, echoing grandeur of the public baths. This is where Romans of all social classes, from the lowliest plebeian to the most esteemed senator, would converge. Public baths, or thermae, the grander imperial complexes, and balneae, the smaller, more local establishments, are not merely places for hygiene. They are the vibrant, throbbing heart of Roman social life. You walk in the warm, humid air immediately enveloping you, carrying the mingled scents of various oils, perfumes, and human activity. It's a sensory experience, a constant hum of voices, the splash of water, the gentle scraping of the strigil, that curved metal implement used to scrape oil and dirt from the skin. These architectural marvels are far more than just glorified washrooms. They're sprawling complexes boasting an array of facilities designed for holistic well-being and social interaction. You might begin your ritual in the tepidarium, the warm room allowing your pores to open, gently preparing your body for the heat to come. The air here is comfortably warm, and you might strike up a casual conversation with a neighbour, or simply observe the hubbub around you. Then you'd move into the calidarium, the hot room where the intense steamy heat forces you to sweat out impurities. Your skin starts to prickle, sweat crawling down the back of your neck, and you feel the cleansing process truly begin. This is followed perhaps by a visit to the laconicum or sauna for an even more intense heat experience. The culmination of the bathing ritual is typically the frigidarium, the cold plunge pool. Stepping from the intense heat into the invigorating shock of the cold water is a jolt to the system designed to close your pores and invigorate your body. You emerge feeling refreshed, your skin tingling. But the baths offer much more than just a sequence of hot and cold. Imagine wandering through the complex. There are gymnasiums, palaestrae, where you can exercise perhaps a vigorous wrestling match or some ball games. Libraries are often attached, offering quiet spaces for study and contemplation. You might attend a lecture in a dedicated room or simply relax in one of the beautifully landscaped gardens. Barbershops are a common feature, providing not just shaves and haircuts, but also serving as informal centres for gossip and news. You appreciate the commitment to cleanliness that is woven into the very fabric of Roman society. Regular visits to the bathhouse are seen as both a social duty and a profound mark of civilization. Even if you live in modest conditions, you still strive to maintain a certain standard of personal hygiene, and the baths provide the means. It's an unspoken agreement, a cultural value that transcends class. You know that while your own insula might lack private running water or sanitation, the extensive aqueduct system tirelessly brings fresh water into the city, making these public baths and the communal latrines possible. This impressive infrastructure and engineering marvel upholds a generally high standard of urban sanitation, for its era a marvel that you perhaps take for granted, but which dramatically improves daily life compared to many other ancient societies. While the public baths stand as a testament to Rome's commitment to collective well-being, the experience within these grand halls dramatically shifts depending on your social standing. If you are a wealthy citizen, your journey through the baths might involve a retinue of slaves to assist you applying fragrant oils, scraping your skin with a strigil, and fetching fresh towels. You might frequent the grandest imperial baths, like the baths of Caracalla, colossal complexes that offer not just bathing facilities, but expansive gardens for leisurely strolls, elaborate gymnasiums, and exclusive areas for private conversation. Here, the sheer scale of the architecture, the intricate decorations, and the presence of numerous attendants serve as a constant reminder of your elevated status. You conduct business here, sealing deals in the steamy calidarium, or subtly engaging in political manoeuvring while relaxing in the tepidarium. It's a space where leisure and power seamlessly intertwine. For the common plebeian, however, the experience is more functional, though no less vital. You share the facilities with a multitude of others, the sheer press of humanity, a constant reminder of your place. You perform your own ritual, applying your own, perhaps less expensive oils, and scraping away the grime of your labour-filled day. The atmosphere is boisterous, filled with the loud chatter of neighbours, the playful shouts of children, and the constant hum of the working class unwinding. While you might not have a private retinue, you're still afforded the same cleansing waters, the same opportunity for social interaction, albeit on a different scale and with different company. The baths in this sense act as a great equaliser, allowing all citizens access to a fundamental aspect of Roman life, yet simultaneously highlighting the persistent distinctions in comfort and luxury. This distinction showcases a fascinating aspect of daily life during the peak. Of the Roman Empire, cleanliness was a shared cultural value, almost a civic duty. But the means and comfort of achieving it were heavily class-dependent. You might rub shoulders with a senator in the frigidarium, but your conversation would likely be brief and respectful, acknowledging the invisible barriers of hierarchy. Your communal wash, perhaps a hurried affair, after a long day of manual labour, stands in stark contrast to the elaborate leisurely rituals of the wealthy, who might spend hours at the baths treating it as a primary social engagement. It's a snapshot of Rome's social fabric where even a shared activity like bathing reveals the deep-seated divisions. As the sun begins its descent, casting long shadows across the bathhouse floor, you realise that the rhythms of your Roman day are dictated by the sun and the demands of labour. The concept of time you've learned is fluid, not the rigid, unyielding measure of fixed hours you might be accustomed to. Your workday, for instance, might be surprisingly short by modern standards, often concluding in the early afternoon, a practical adjustment to the Mediterranean climate that makes working during the hottest part of the day almost unbearable. You emerge from the baths refreshed and ready for the main meal, the cena, or perhaps a quiet evening, your body having shed the day's toil, prepared for the respite that follows. The Roman day or dies truly begins at sunrise around what you'd call 6 a.m. Not with the harsh jolt of an alarm, but with a subtle shift in light and the awakening sounds of the city, and it ends just as naturally at sunset. You understand quickly that the length of hours is a remarkably fluid concept here, varying dramatically with the seasons. A summer hour is longer than a winter hour simply because the daylight lasts longer. This makes scheduling feel less precise, more attuned to the natural world. Your workday, you'd quickly learn, wraps up rather early by modern standards, a practical if utterly foreign adaptation to a climate that wisely advises against manual labour during the brain-boiling midday sun. So you find yourself with a significant portion of the late afternoon to devote to other activities, perhaps a visit to the baths, social calls, or personal errands. The occupational landscape you find yourself in is incredibly diverse, reflecting the vastness and complexity of the Roman Empire. If you are a man, your days are likely filled with commerce. You might be a farmer tilling the fertile lands that feed Rome, the rhythmic cycle of planting and harvesting dictating your year. Or perhaps you're a trader haggling in the bustling forum, your voice adding to the constant hum of transactions. You could be a skilled craftsman, your hands shaping metal, weaving textiles, or crafting pottery, contributing to the empire's material culture. For many, physical labour is the constant, whether building roads, unloading ships at the bustling ports, or working in the mines, a harsh and often short-lived existence. Beyond these, you might serve as a soldier, the disciplined might of Rome, defending its borders or maintaining order in the provinces, your life defined by training, marching, and occasional combat. Or perhaps you're a teacher imparting knowledge to the young, or a doctor practicing the burgeoning art of medicine. Even civil servants navigating the complex bureaucracy of the state fill various roles. Each of these professions carries its own distinct physical demands, its own rhythms, and its own place in the intricate economic machinery of Rome. For the wealthy elite, their labour is less about physical exertion and more about the relentless pursuit and maintenance of power and influence. You observe them engaged in intense political manoeuvring, navigating the treacherous waters of the Senate or the imperial court. Their days are filled with attending public duties, perhaps a morning salutatio where clients pay their respects, or a series of meetings to discuss legislation or state affairs. They manage vast estates overseeing hundreds of slaves and tenant farmers, their wealth rooted in land and the labour of others. Or they might immerse themselves in intellectual pursuits, debating philosophy, studying literature, or writing their own histories. This form of labour, while not physical, is demanding in its own way, requiring sharp intellect, strategic thinking, and constant vigilance to protect and advance their interests in a fiercely competitive society. The sounds of this working world are ever present. The early morning laccage of carts on cobblestones as goods are transported, the distant rhythmic clang of blacksmiths' hammers shaping iron, the constant hum of haggling in the bustling markets as merchants and customers negotiate prices. It's a symphony of industry and human endeavour, a backdrop to your own daily grind, whatever that may be. You're a cog in this vast, powerful machine, your efforts contributing to the prosperity and stability of an empire that seems to you eternal. As you consider the diverse roles of men in Roman society, your gaze naturally turns to the women. For Roman women, especially those in plebeian households, their primary sphere of influence, their labour, is centred squarely on the home. You see them from dawn to dusk, diligently overseeing household chores, preparing meals, cleaning the modest living quarters, mending clothes and caring for children. This isn't merely a task, it's the meticulous management of the domestic sphere, the very foundation upon which the family unit rests. For elite women, this domestic management takes on a vastly different, more complex scale. If you were a patrician woman, your household chores would involve supervising a veritable army of slaves, overseeing the cook in the kitchen, instructing the laundresses, managing the tutors for your children, and ensuring the smooth running of a grand estate. This demands considerable skill organisation and a quiet authority that belies their lack of public political power. You are, in essence, the CEO of your household, a position of significant responsibility and influence within your own domain. Girls, regardless of their social standing, are typically educated in practical domestic skills from a young age. You might observe a young girl learning to spin wool, her small fingers carefully drawing out fibres or meticulously weaving cloth on a simple loom. These are not merely hobbies, they are essential skills preparing them for their expected roles in efficiently managing a household, whether it be a humble insular apartment or a grand domus. The emphasis is on practicality, on becoming a capable and virtuous wife and mother, someone who can ensure the well-being and smooth operation of her family's private world. But lurking beneath this seemingly well-ordered society, performing an immense, often invisible array of tasks, is the ubiquitous figure of the slave. Slavery, you quickly realise, is not merely present. It is an integral and fundamental part of the Roman economy and society, a brutal cornerstone upon which much of the empire's prosperity is built. You see them everywhere, performing a wide array of tasks across all sectors, from the most menial to surprisingly skilled roles. In wealthy households, slaves are domestic servants, cooking, cleaning, attending to personal needs, running errands. Some are highly educated, serving as tutors for the children or scribes for the paterfamilias entrusted with sensitive documents and accounts. You might have a slave accompanying you to the public baths, carrying your towels and oils, assisting with your cleansing ritual. Beyond the household, you witness the vast physically demanding manual labour performed by slaves. They toil in the sprawling fields, harvesting the wheat and olives that feed the empire. They work in the dangerous dark confines of mines, extracting precious metals that fuel the economy. They haul heavy stones and mix mortar on construction sites, building the aqueducts, roads, and monumental structures that define Roman power. They row the galleys, their lives bound to the rhythm of the oar, ensuring the movement of goods and soldiers across the Mediterranean. This vast, often anonymous workforce forms the brutal backbone of Roman prosperity, their ceaseless efforts underpinning the very fabric of daily life for every other class. You understand that without them, this empire in its current form could not exist. The stark reality of slavery, you observe, is that slaves are considered property, mere chattels rather than citizens. They possess no legal rights in the way a free Roman citizen does, and their status is often a result of being captured in war, a consequence of committing certain crimes or tragically falling into debt. This means their treatment varies enormously, entirely dependent on the whims and character of their master. You might witness instances of brutal casual cruelty. A a slave beaten for a minor transgression, or subjected to relentless back-breaking labour with little food or rest. The stories whispered in hushed tones speak of conditions in the mines or on the great latifundia large estates that are truly horrific, a constant grinding down of spirit and body. These are the profound human struggles that underpin the Roman Golden Age, the suffering that fuels its grandeur. Yet you also hear stories or even observe cases where slaves are treated relatively well. Some are considered almost part of the family, particularly those who have served a household for many years, or those with specialised skills like highly educated tutors or skilled artisans. They might be given more comfortable living conditions, better food, and perhaps even some personal possessions. However, even in these better circumstances, the underlying truth remains their freedom. Their very life is not their own. It can be revoked, they can be sold separated from any family they might have formed, all at the master's discretion. This constant uncertainty, this lack of agency, is a pervasive heavy weight on the enslaved population, a deep and fundamental injustice that quietly hums beneath the veneer of Roman civilization. Within this rigid social order, the question of childhood and education naturally arises. Education, you quickly learn, is highly valued in Roman society. It's seen as essential for preparing young Romans for their future roles, whether as citizens, leaders, or competent household managers. It's also recognised as a key, though often challenging, pathway to advancing one's social status, instilling both knowledge and civic virtue. For the wealthy elite, a robust education is a given, a necessary investment in their children's future. If you are born into a patrician family, your early years might involve private tutors, a literator to teach you reading and writing a grammaticus, to delve into grammar and literature, and later a rhetor to master rhetoric and philosophy. These are specialised instructors, often Greek, imparting a broad and classical education. Alternatively, you might be sent to a ludus, a formal school, though this is often a precursor to more private specialised instruction. However, for the less privileged children, access to formal education is severely limited if it exists at all. You might see children of plebeian families learning practical or vocational skills directly from their parents, following in their footsteps. A farmer's son learns to plough, a craftsman's daughter learns to spin. Apprenticeships are common, offering a hands-on education in a trade preparing them for their designated place in society, a pathway that often bypasses the formal academic curriculum entirely. This stark divergence in educational opportunities ensures that the socio-economic divide is often perpetuated from one generation to the next, shaping the intellectual and practical capabilities of Roman youth long before they reach adulthood. You recognise that knowledge in many ways is a privilege, a tool for power and advancement, not a universal right. The curriculum, particularly for those fortunate enough to receive a formal education, is rigorous and demanding. You would spend your days focusing intently on reading and writing. This isn't just about mastering Latin. Bilingualism, especially with Greek, is highly valued, seen as a mark of sophistication and intellectual prowess. So you learn both often, grappling with complex texts and the intricacies of grammar in two languages. Arithmetic is another core subject essential for managing household accounts, conducting business, and understanding the practicalities of a complex economy. Alongside these academic subjects, there is a strong emphasis on moral conduct, instilling the Roman virtues of pietas, duty, to gods, family and state, gravitas, seriousness, and dignitas, prestige. Memorization and recitation are key pedagogical tools. You'd spend hours repeating texts, speeches, and mathematical tables until they were ingrained in your mind. For boys, especially those from elite families destined for public life, higher education delves into subjects designed to equip them for careers in politics, law, and military leadership. Rhetoric, the art of persuasive speaking, is paramount. You would train relentlessly in constructing arguments, delivering speeches, and mastering the nuances of public discourse. a critical skill for any aspiring politician or lawyer in a society where oratorical skill could make or break a career. Philosophy, history and literature, both Greek and Roman authors, form the intellectual bedrock shaping your understanding of the world, ethics and human nature. Music and astronomy are also part of this advanced curriculum, broadening your intellectual horizons and fostering a well-rounded mind, preparing you to be not just a leader, but a cultured and discerning member of the elite. Education, however, is significantly gendered. While young girls from wealthy families might receive a basic education in reading and writing, their schooling often differs markedly from their brothers. Their path focuses more heavily on domestic skills, spinning and weaving practical arts that prepare them for their roles as wives and mothers. The goal is to equip them to efficiently manage a household, raise children and oversee slaves, rather than to prepare them for public life or political engagement. You observe that a girl's education, while perhaps less outwardly academic, is no less important in preparing her for her societal function, ensuring the continuity and stability of the family unit, which you've learned, is the fundamental building block of Roman society. If you were to step into a Roman school or ludus, you might be surprised by the environment. Forget the quiet, orderly classrooms of your modern imagination. Roman schools could be quite noisy, filled with the hubbub of children reciting their lessons aloud, a constant chorus of voices as students practice their memorization. The classroom might simply be a corner of the forum, or a rented room with students seated on stools writing on wax tablets. Discipline, you'd quickly discover, is often harsh, characterized by corporal punishment. Teachers frequently employed canes or whips to enforce order and motivate students, reflecting the era's educational ethos, where physical discipline was seen as a legitimate and necessary tool for character formation. You learned quickly to be resilient to focus amidst the constant din, and perhaps most crucially to develop a preternatural ability to dodge a teacher's stick, essential life skills for any Roman childhood. Beyond the tangible routines of daily survival and the structured world of education, you delve deeper into the Roman experience, realizing that life is not just about physical sustenance, but about navigating an intricate web of cultural expectations, subtle etiquette, and deeply held beliefs. This is the social fabric of Rome, a tapestry that shapes individual interactions and collective identity. Perhaps one of the most fundamental social dynamics you encounter is the patron-client relationship, a ubiquitous system that underpins much of Roman society. You as a client would participate in the morning ritual known as the salutatio. This isn't just a friendly greeting, it's a crucial, often formal visit to the home of your wealthier patronus patron. You would arrive perhaps alongside dozens of other clients before dawn, or just as the sun rises, waiting patiently to be admitted. Once inside, you would pay your respects to your patron, offering deference and carefully chosen words affirming your loyalty and support. In exchange, your patron provides protection, legal aid, occasional financial assistance, or simply uses their influence on your behalf. This reciprocal relationship, though heavily weighted in favour of the patron, is vital for social cohesion and economic opportunity. For you, the client, navigating this hierarchy of communication is paramount. An inappropriate tone, a disrespectful glance, or a failure to acknowledge the established order could carry significant social and even economic peril. You learn to choose your words carefully to project humility and respect, recognizing that your livelihood and social standing often depend on maintaining your patron's good favour. It's a delicate dance of power and submission, played out daily across thousands of Roman homes. Social interactions, particularly in public forums and elite gatherings, are governed by strict unspoken rules that reflect social status. You understand that your place in a conversation, the right to speak, and the deference you must show are all dictated by your birth, wealth and influence. Overstepping these bounds, speaking out of turn, or failing to acknowledge the established order is not just rude, it can lead to social ostracization or worse. The Senate itself, for example, functions almost like a gentleman's club. where specific forms of discourse and political manoeuvring are not just expected but demanded. Eloquent speaking or rhetoric is highly prized. You observe senators seasoned in the art of persuasion weaving intricate arguments, their voices rising and falling with practiced precision. This is a tightrope walk of verbal skill, where a well-placed phrase can win allies and a clumsy one can cost you everything. These social rules extend to every public space. The Forum, the bustling heart of Rome, serves as a central hub where citizens gather to discuss politics, engage in trade, and simply socialize. Here you constantly navigate a diverse array of social cues and power dynamics. You might overhear a heated debate between politicians or watch a legal case unfold, all while trying to decipher the unwritten rules of interaction. Public baths are equally important social centres, as you've already experienced. Here, Romans of all classes would gossip, conduct business, relax, and engage in intellectual discourse. The atmosphere might be more relaxed than the Forum, but the subtle hierarchies still persist. You recognise the familiar patterns of deference, the way a freedman might address a senator, or how even a wealthy plebeian might interact with an equestrian. These interactions, constant and varied, reinforce community bonds while simultaneously reminding everyone of their place within the grand Roman order. Beyond the daily rituals of the salutatio and the nuanced interactions in public spaces, the Roman social calendar is punctuated by more elaborate gatherings, none more significant for the elite than the banquets and commissatio. You find yourself once again a guest at such an event, perhaps, a private dinner hosted by a prominent family. These aren't simply meals. They are cornerstone events of elite social life meticulously planned and executed. You recline on plush couches enjoying delicacies that range from roasted game to exotic fruits, each dish a testament to your host's wealth and connections. The atmosphere is one of cultivated pleasure where conversation, entertainment and display intertwine. Professional performers, perhaps, musicians playing the lyre or flute or dancers moving with graceful artistry, often entertain the guests. Sometimes a poet or orator might recite verses lending an intellectual air to the proceedings. The evening unfolds over several hours, allowing ample time for leisurely conversation, networking, and the subtle art of social climbing. These events are not merely about the consumption of food and wine. They are about displaying wealth, reinforcing social bonds among the elite, and engaging in lively conversation and intellectual games. You observe the careful placement of guests, the subtle hierarchies even within the guest list and the unspoken rules of engagement that dictate who speaks to whom and about what. As the evening progresses, the banquet often culminates in a commissatio or drinking party. The formal courses might give way to lighter fare, and the wine perhaps flows a little more freely. The atmosphere becomes more boisterous, filled with laughter music, and sometimes even the raucous sounds of dice games. It's a time for conviviality, for letting down one's guard slightly within the confines of trusted company. You might find yourself engaged in philosophical debate, or simply enjoying the company and the shared experience of luxury. These gatherings are crucial for the elite to solidify their relationships, form alliances, and simply enjoy the fruits of their privileged position, extending into the evening with sounds of merriment filling the air, a stark contrast to the quiet, sometimes desperate evenings of the city's poorer districts. Stepping away from these lavish social engagements, you encounter another vibrant forum for social interaction and cultural expression: Roman theatre. This isn't just a passive form of entertainment, it's a lively collective experience, a public spectacle that often serves as a mirror, sometimes distorted, of Roman society itself. Grand theatres, often centrally located within the city, provide seating for thousands, drawing diverse audiences from all social strata. You might find yourself packed in with fellow citizens, eager for the spectacle to begin, anticipating the stories and emotions about to unfold before you. As you settle into your seat in the Grand Theatre, the sheer scale of the building itself is impressive. a testament to Roman engineering and the value placed on public entertainment. This is more than just a venue, it's a platform for social commentary, a place where the political and social issues of the time are frequently reflected, sometimes subtly, sometimes with startling directness. You might witness a play that cleverly satirizes a current political figure, or a comedy that highlights the absurdities of Roman law, the audience reacting with laughter, cheers, or murmurs of disapproval. It's a collective experience, a way for citizens to process and respond to the world around them, often through the safety of fictional narratives. The actors you observe are often slaves or freedmen, their status humble, yet their craft is essential. They perform in exaggerated masks, each designed to convey a specific character and emotion: a stern father, a mischievous slave, a heartbroken lover. These masks, along with elaborate costumes and gestures, allow the actors to project their roles to a large audience, ensuring that even those in the furthest rows can follow the story. The performance is dynamic, often accompanied by music, and the energy between the actors and the diverse crowd is palpable. You feel yourself swept up in the collective emotion, laughing at the antics of a comic character, or feeling the pang of tragedy as a hero meets their fate. Roman theatre in this sense is a powerful form of cultural performance, unifying disparate social classes, if only for a few hours in a shared emotional journey. Beyond the stage, Roman society places immense value on the art of rhetoric and literature, especially for the elite. If you aspire to a career in politics or law, you understand that rhetoric, the art of persuasive speaking, is not just a skill, but a critical discipline requiring immense intellectual rigour and years of practice. You would spend countless hours honing your ability to construct compelling arguments, to deliver speeches with grace and power, to sway public opinion in the forum, or influence decisions in the Senate. This is a subtle yet potent form of performance, where words are weapons and allies capable of shaping the destiny of individuals and the empire. You recognize the power of a well-turned phrase, the impact of a perfectly timed pause, and the danger of a misspoken word. Literature, too, flourishes under imperial patronage, forming another pillar of cultural expression. You might spend your leisure hours immersed in the works of great poets like Virgil, whose epic Aeneid tells the mythical founding of Rome, or Horace, whose lyrical odes explore themes of love, friendship, and philosophy. Historians like Tacitus and Livy chronicle Rome's past, shaping its collective memory and identity. Philosophers such as Seneca and Marcus Aurelius offer profound insights into ethics, stoicism, and the human condition shaping intellectual thought across the empire. These works, covering history, philosophy, love, and mythology, were foundational to Western literature, sometimes designed to be sung, enriching the cultural landscape with both intellectual depth and artistic performance. As you move through the bustling streets of Rome, your eyes are constantly drawn to the visual arts and architectural grandeur that define the cityscape. Roman visual arts demonstrate a keen sense of realism, particularly in sculpture. You see lifelike portraits of emperors and gods, their features rendered with incredible detail and expression. These aren't idealized abstract representations. They're attempts to capture a moment in time to convey the very essence of the individual, from the stern lines of an emperor's face to the flowing drapery of a goddess. You might stand before a monumental statue in the Forum, tracing the lines of a toga, or observing the intricate musculature of a heroic figure, marvelling at the skill of the artisans. Mosaics and frescoes, painstakingly crafted, adorn public buildings and private homes, transforming walls and floors into vibrant canvases. You might walk into a domus and be greeted by a floor mosaic depicting a scene from daily life. A bustling market, a hunting scene, or even a detailed portrait of the homeowner. On the walls, frescoes bring to life scenes from mythology, epic battles, or serene landscapes, their colours still vibrant after centuries, showcasing the Roman appreciation for beauty and meticulous craftsmanship. These aren't just decorations. They're narrative symbols of status and constant reminders of Rome's rich cultural heritage. You understand that every public space and many private ones are designed to engage your senses, to educate and to inspire awe. But it is the architectural marvels that truly stand as grand performances of engineering prowess and aesthetic taste. You stand before the Colosseum, its colossal structure rising majestically against the Roman sky, and you feel a sense of overwhelming power and ingenuity. This isn't merely an amphitheatre. It's a symbol of Rome's might, a stage for spectacles that capture the collective imagination. You might then visit the Pantheon, its massive dome, an unprecedented feat of engineering. Its oculus open to the heavens, letting in a single beam of light that moves across the interior throughout the day. You feel a sense of profound reverence and wonder within its perfectly proportioned space. The Roman Forum, a sprawling complex of temples, basilicas and triumphal arches, is a testament to Rome's prosperity and its organizational values, designed to inspire awe and reinforce the empire's dominance. These structures are not just functional. They are deliberate statements, physical manifestations of Rome's power, wealth, and its enduring legacy. You walk among them, a small figure beneath their shadow, feeling the weight of history and the undeniable genius of those who built them. And it is within these grand architectural settings that the most popular and visceral forms of cultural performance unfold, the games and spectacles. These are immensely popular forms of entertainment, crucial tools for maintaining social order, promoting Roman values and demonstrating imperial power. You imagine the roar of the crowd, the anticipation, the sheer energy of tens of thousands of people gathered for a shared experience. You find yourself transported to the heart of Rome's most thrilling and brutal cultural performance, the Colosseum. Its towering arches loom around you, and as you step inside, the roar of tens of thousands of spectators washes over you, a deafening wave of anticipation and excitement. This colossal amphitheatre is the stage for gladiatorial contest where men, often slaves or condemned criminals, fight to the death for the entertainment of the masses. You witness the gladiators, their bodies honed and gleaming with oil, entering the arena to the cheers and shouts of the crowd. The fights are brutal, visceral, and often short, a dance of skill, strength, and desperate survival. The tension is palpable as swords clash, shields clang, and the fate of a man hangs in the balance with every parry and thrust. But the Colosseum offers more than just gladiators. You might witness wild beast hunts where exotic animals from the far-flung corners of the empire, lions, tigers, bears, are pitted against hunters or other animals, a spectacle of raw power and primal instinct. There are mock sea battles where the arena is flooded to stage elaborate naval engagements, a feat of engineering as astonishing as the battle itself. Public executions too are held here, serving as grim reminders of the state's power and the consequences of transgression. These spectacles are designed to draw immense crowds, to evoke powerful emotions, and to reinforce the absolute authority of Rome. You're part of this collective experience, swept up in the excitement, the fear, and the sheer spectacle of it all. It's a powerful, unsettling mix of entertainment and propaganda, a constant reaffirmation of the empire's might over man and beast. Then the scene shifts, and you are among 250,000 spectators at the Circus Maximus, Rome's massive stadium for chariot races. The atmosphere here is even more electrifying, a frenzy of anticipation and partisan fervour. You can almost feel the ground tremble as the chariots pulled by teams of powerful horses thunder around the track. Spectators roar for their favourite charioteers, often divided into factions: the reds, whites, blues and greens, each with their devoted followers, creating an intense rivalry that permeates every aspect of Roman society. The speed, the danger, the precision of the charioteers as they navigate the turns, often leading to spectacular crashes, hold you captive. It's a high-stakes, adrenaline-fueled performance, where glory and death are often separated by mere inches. These lavish spectacles, whether in the Colosseum or the Circus Maximus, are often sponsored by emperors and wealthy citizens. This isn't merely out of generosity. It's a strategic move to gain public favour, to reinforce their prestige, and to demonstrate the immense military might and economic power of Rome. By providing bread and circuses, panem et circenses, the ruling elite seek to appease the masses, keeping them fed and entertained, and thus crucially less inclined to question the political order or rise in rebellion. It's a calculated strategy, a sophisticated form of psychological control, where entertainment functions as a vital tool of social stability. As you leave the roaring crowds of the spectacles, a different, more pervasive aspect of Roman life comes into focus: its spiritual frameworks and deeply ingrained superstitions. Religion, you quickly understand, is an integral and pervasive part of Roman existence, woven into the very fabric of daily life. It's centred on a polytheistic belief system, a vast pantheon of gods and goddesses, each governing different aspects of life, from Jupiter, the king of the gods, to Vesta, goddess of the hearth. You see temples dedicated to these deities dotting the cityscape and the surrounding landscape, their grand facades and intricate carvings a constant reminder of the divine presence. These temples serve as centres for religious ceremonies and festivals, which are frequent occurrences in the Roman calendar, ensuring that the divine is intertwined with daily rhythms and public life. Romans, you learn, harbour a profound belief in the divine origin of their city and empire. This belief underpins the concept of piety as a fundamental virtue that emphasises the importance of maintaining a proper, respectful relationship with the gods. This isn't just a matter of personal faith, it's a civic duty. Through elaborate rituals, public sacrifices and fervent prayers, Romans seek to ensure the favour and protection of the gods, believing that the prosperity and stability of the empire depend on this sacred contract. You might witness a procession to a temple or observe a priest performing a sacrifice, the smoke rising to the heavens, carrying the hopes and fears of the populace. It's a collective act of devotion, a communal effort to appease the divine forces that govern their world. Beyond formal religion, a pervasive reliance on omens and supernatural insight permeates daily life. Belief in divination is common. Soothsayers, augurs, interpreting the flight of birds and haruspices, examining the entrails of sacrificial animals, are regularly consulted for guidance on important decisions, whether for state affairs or personal matters. You might pause before a public building, noticing an inscription indicating that its construction began only after favourable omens were observed. This indicates a pervasive reliance on supernatural guidance to navigate an uncertain world, a constant search for signs and portents that might reveal the will of the gods or the unfolding of destiny. It's a world where the sacred is not distant but intimately connected to the mundane, where every unusual event might carry divine significance. Within your own Roman home, a small shrine or lararium is dedicated to the household gods, the lares. You maintain this shrine, offering small prayers or libations, believing these deities protect your home and its inhabitants. This intertwines private domestic life with public religious observance, creating a sense of continuity between the grand ceremonies of the state and the intimate rituals of the family. The emperor himself is often considered a divine figure, or at least a semi-divine one, and his cult becomes an important and unifying part of the state religion. This imperial cult reinforces political authority through spiritual reverence, fostering a collective sense of destiny and loyalty to the empire. It's a clever intertwining of religious belief and political power, ensuring that devotion to the gods translates into devotion to Rome itself. As you navigate the complex religious landscape of Rome, you observe another fascinating aspect: its remarkable capacity for cultural assimilation. Over time, Roman religion isn't a static insular system. It absorbs elements from the diverse cultures under its vast rule. You might encounter Egyptian deities like Isis and Serapis, or observe the adoption of Greek gods and goddesses, often simply given Roman names, but retaining their original myths and attributes. The pantheon grows, becoming richer and more varied, showcasing the empire's multicultural nature and its impressive capacity to integrate new beliefs and practices. This isn't necessarily an act of conquest, but often one of practicality and openness, understanding that incorporating the gods of newly acquired territories can help foster loyalty and stability. This religious syncretism means that your spiritual journey in Rome is remarkably diverse. You might attend a traditional Roman festival honouring Jupiter one day, and witness a vibrant procession dedicated to Isis the next. This blending of traditions creates a rich tapestry of faith, where individual Romans can find spiritual comfort and connection in a multitude of ways. It underscores the empire's ability to weave disparate threads into a cohesive, albeit complex whole, demonstrating a flexibility that often defined Roman expansion and governance. Shifting from the public and divine to the deeply personal, you delve into the fundamental unit of Roman society, the family or domus, referring to the physical house, and familia, referring to the household, including slaves and extended kin. At the head of this unit stands the paterfamilias, the father of the family who holds almost absolute legal power over his household. This power, known as patria potestas, is truly immense. It extends over his wife, his children, regardless of their age, as long as they remain under his legal authority, and his slaves. He has the right to arrange marriages, to sell his children into slavery, and even theoretically to put them to death, although this last power was rarely exercised and increasingly constrained by social custom and public opinion as the empire matured. This binds them all into a single economic and legal entity, with his authority being largely unquestioned. Any challenge to his authority, you understand, could have severe consequences. Disobedience from a son or daughter, or an act that brought dishonour upon the family, would be met with swift and firm action, often determined by the paterfamilias himself, without recourse to external legal bodies in many private family matters. This patriarchal control reflects the strict hierarchy that permeates every level of Roman society, extending even into the intimate confines of the home. You recognise that your individual identity, your very existence, is largely defined by your position within this family unit and your relationship to its patriarch. It's a structure that provides stability and order, but also places immense power in the hands of one man, shaping the lives and destinies of everyone under his roof. Within this patriarchal framework, the institution of marriage in Roman society reveals itself to be largely a pragmatic alliance, driven more by strategic considerations than by romantic love. If you were a Roman citizen, your marriage would primarily serve to secure social standing, forge political connections, and consolidate or expand family property. You'd understand that a well-arranged marriage could elevate your family's status, create powerful alliances, or ensure the continuation of a prestigious lineage. The arrangement of such unions often began when children were quite young, with families negotiating terms, dowries, and future benefits long before the bride and groom even reached adulthood. While romantic love certainly existed in Rome as attested by its poets and fictional narratives, it was often regarded as a separate phenomenon, something that might or might not develop within a marriage, but rarely its primary driver. You might read love poems or witness depictions of passionate affairs in plays, but in the practical world of a Roman family life, these were often distinct from the business of marriage. Your union would typically be arranged by your paterfamilias or other senior male relatives, meticulously planned for strategic family benefit. The focus was on duty progeny and the economic and social advantages it brought to the familia, rather than individual emotional fulfillment. This starkly contrasts with modern conceptions of marriage, highlighting a profound cultural difference in how personal relationships were viewed and structured. Despite the pervasive male dominance in the public sphere, Roman women, you observe, enjoyed a significant degree of personal and economic independence compared to their female contemporaries in many other ancient societies. This is a fascinating paradox within the patriarchal system. While women were barred from voting or holding public office, effectively excluded from direct political power, they possessed considerable legal and financial rights. You might witness a Roman woman managing her own inheritance, engaging in business transactions, or even overseeing large estates. They could own and inherit property, a right denied to many women in other cultures, giving them a measure of financial autonomy. This allowed some elite women to wield significant indirect influence, shaping politics through their husbands and sons, or managing vast fortunes that contributed to their family's power. Furthermore, Roman women had the right to initiate divorce, a surprisingly progressive legal provision for the era. While divorce was not undertaken lightly, it allowed women a means of escaping unhappy or abusive unions, offering a safety net that was unavailable to many women in the ancient world. This legal agency, though often exercised with the consultation of family, still underscores a unique position for women in Roman society, showcasing a fascinating contrast in gender roles, restricted from formal public power, yet afforded considerable private and economic liberties. This complex interplay of rights and limitations paints a more nuanced picture of female experience than a simple male-dominated narrative might suggest, revealing the subtle ways in which women could exert agency and shape their own lives, or at least navigate their constraints during the peak of the Roman Empire. Yet for all the unique legal freedoms Roman women might possess, the strong emphasis on patriarchal control and family honour means that transgressions, particularly those involving marital fidelity, carry severe social and reputational ramifications. If you were a Roman woman, the consequences of adultery would be dire, potentially leading to divorce, social ostracisation, and a profound loss of dignitas for your entire family. While perhaps tolerated or even overlooked for some elite men, a woman's fidelity was paramount, a cornerstone of family honour. You would face immense pressure to conform to societal expectations, understanding that your actions could have far-reaching and damaging impacts on your family's standing, potentially jeopardising their alliances and their legacy. The subtle, ever-present weight of this expectation shapes daily decisions, public appearances and private interactions, a constant reminder of the high stakes involved in maintaining one's reputation. This pervasive pressure to conform extends beyond personal conduct, touching upon the very essence of individual identity. You soon learn that individual identity and ambition are often subsumed by the collective. Your clan or family standing is the primary source of your identity and reputation within Roman society. It's less about who you are as an individual, and more about whose family you belong to. Your family's history, its achievements, its prestige. This is your social capital. This communal identity means that personal glory, while celebrated, is often seen as reflecting positively on the entire lineage, just as individual disgrace can tarnish the family name for generations. Romans deeply valued dignitas, a concept loosely translated as dignity or prestige, but which encompasses so much more. It's a measure of a person's influence, their reputation, and their standing in society. This isn't solely equated with wealth, though wealth certainly helps. Dignitas is earned through public service, military achievements, and moral rectitude. You might increase your dignitas through distinguished military service leading legions to victory, or by holding public office serving the state as a consul praetor or aedile. Sponsoring public work such as games, baths, or temples also contributes to your dignitas, intertwining personal achievement with community benefit and social status. This creates a powerful incentive to contribute to the public good, as your personal honour is inextricably linked to your contributions to Rome. The pervasive system of clientela, which you've already observed, and the absolute power of the paterfamilias reinforce this focus on collective honour. You realise that individual actions, especially scandals or perceived dishonour, could indeed have far-reaching and severe impacts on the reputation and standing of your entire lineage. This creates an immense unspoken pressure to conform to uphold family values and to avoid any behaviour that might bring shame. The weight of your ancestors' legacy and the future of your descendants rests in part on your shoulders, making every public action a carefully considered performance. This system, while rigid, provides a powerful framework for social order and collective responsibility, ensuring that individual ambition often aligns with the greater good of the family and by extension the state. Within this seemingly rigid system, you might wonder about social mobility. While the vast majority of individuals remained in the social class they were born into, a strong sense of fixed destiny and birthright, there were avenues, however narrow, for advancement. Some social mobility was indeed possible, creating what the Romans called new men, individuals who through exceptional merit or fortune managed to climb the social ladder, gaining status and influence previously unattainable for their families. Military service, for instance, offered a clear path for men of talent and courage to distinguish themselves, earning prestige and rewards that could translate into social advancement. A successful military career could lead to public office land grants and ultimately a higher social standing for themselves and their descendants. Financial success, too, could open doors. A shrewd merchant or a particularly successful public contractor accumulating significant wealth might be able to purchase property, gain equestrian status, and begin to integrate into the wealthier echelons of society. Political ambition, though often requiring significant initial resources and connections, could also propel individuals upwards, as exemplified by figures like Cicero, a new man who rose to the consulship. These instances, while not common, offered a glimmer of hope, a testament to individual effort and fortune within an otherwise largely static social structure. They highlight the overall rigidity, yes, but also the profound impact of birthright on one's entire life, while acknowledging that exceptional circumstances or talent could sometimes break the mould shaping life during the peak of the Roman Empire, in ways that were both predictable and occasionally surprising. This brings you to the foundational macro-level structures and environmental forces that shaped the very possibilities of Roman existence, underpinning all the intimate daily realities and cultural norms you've observed. First and foremost is the inescapable social hierarchy, a defining feature that largely dictated an individual's life trajectory and opportunities from the moment of birth until death. You've already glimpsed its outlines, but now you see it in its full imposing structure. At the very pinnacle are the patricians, the aristocratic elite. These are the descendants of Rome's oldest and wealthiest families, possessing immense landholdings and generations of prestige. They hold the highest political power, with many privileges including exclusive rights to certain high offices like consul. Their names resonate with history, their lineage tracing back to the very founders of Rome. Beneath them, but still among the wealthy, are the equestrians or equites. This class, initially defined by their ability to afford a warhorse and serve in the cavalry, evolved into a powerful business class. They are public contractors, merchants and financiers wielding substantial economic influence and a growing though distinct political sway. You might see them managing vast commercial ventures, their wealth derived from trade and public contracts, rather than solely from ancestral land. The vast majority of free Roman citizens, you understand, fall into the category of plebeians. This is the largest class, comprising artisans, merchants, farmers and labourers. They form the indispensable backbone of the Roman economy, their collective efforts fueling the empire's prosperity. Initially, they held little political power, but over centuries they fought sometimes fiercely for greater rights and representation, eventually gaining access to many offices and legislative power through their own assemblies. Yet even within the plebeian class there are significant distinctions in wealth and influence, from relatively prosperous landowners to urban poor barely eking out an existence. At the very bottom of this rigid hierarchy are the slaves. Considered property rather than citizens, they possess no rights whatsoever. Their status usually results from capture in war, a consequence of crime or being born to a slave mother, though debt slavery also existed. Their existence ensures a constant, cheap and easily exploitable labour supply, without which the Roman economic machine, as you've observed, would grind to a halt. You see them performing every conceivable task, from the most educated and skilled to the most brutal and physically demanding. A unique position is held by the freedmen former slaves who have gained their freedom through manumission. They acquire most rights of a Roman citizen, a remarkable transformation, but they are often not fully socially accepted by the freeborn facing persistent discrimination. They might struggle to shed the stigma of their former status, often remaining clients of their former masters, and while their children are born free, the memory of their servile origins lingers. This class represents a significant, if still constrained, pathway for individual advancement, showcasing the subtle flexibilities within the seemingly unyielding Roman social structure. Despite the existence of limited social mobility, the overarching truth remains the vast majority of individuals remained in the social class they were born into. This emphasizes a strong sense of fixed destiny and birthright that governed access to power, resources and opportunities throughout their lives. You understand that your birth determined almost everything about your future, from the quality of your home and food to your chances of influencing the vast empire around you. The highest levels of power are held by the emperor who, while holding supreme power, cleverly maintains the illusion of a republic. This means he often seeks Senate approval for his decrees not out of necessity, but to lend an aura of tradition and legitimacy to his rule. The Senate, an advisory council, made up of Rome's most prestigious citizens, indeed wields enormous sway over the state responsible for proposing laws controlling finances and administering justice. Even under the emperors, its historical prestige and the collective influence of its members make it a body not to be entirely disregarded. Cascading downwards from the emperor and the Senate, a complex system of magistrates holds key administrative roles, forming the intricate machinery of Roman governance. You might encounter consuls, the highest elected office in the Republic, though largely symbolic under the Empire, still holding immense prestige. Praetors serve as judges overseeing the legal system and administering justice. Aediles are responsible for public buildings, infrastructure, and the organisation of public festivals and games, often a path to gaining public favour. Quaestors manage the state treasury, handling finances, while censors are tasked with conducting the census and upholding moral standards, often possessing significant influence over public life. This layered system of authority from the emperor down through these various magistrates and military leaders demands unquestioning obedience, enforcing order across the vast empire and suppressing any challenge to authority. You recognize that every public official, no matter their rank, is a representative of Roman power, part of a meticulously organized structure designed to govern millions. At the very core of Rome's power and its ability to maintain this vast ordered society is its military machine. The Roman military, you are keenly aware, is the most formidable army of its time. It's a professional standing army comprised of legions, each typically numbering around 5,000 highly trained men, further divided into centuries of approximately 80 soldiers. You might see them marching through the streets, their disciplined ranks, gleaming armour and synchronized movements, a powerful display of organized force. Each legion is a self-contained unit with its own command structure, dedicated medical staff to care for the wounded, and even engineers capable of building roads, bridges and siege engines. They are not just instruments of conquest. They also act as a police force, maintaining law and order in the provinces, extending Roman authority, and ensuring stability across the vast territories. While the legions are the most visible symbol of Roman military might, the Roman navy, though often less prestigious, is no less crucial. You understand its vital role in protecting the extensive sea routes that crisscross the Mediterranean, ensuring the unimpeded flow of trade and communication. Without the navy, the grain from Egypt, the spices from the east, and the tin from Britain could not reach Roman markets, and military movements would be severely hampered. The navy is essential for the empire's security and prosperity, a silent guardian of its lifelines, ensuring the flow of goods and information that bind the vast empire together. You realise that this military prowess, both on land and sea, is the ultimate guarantor of Roman order and the peak of its power, allowing all the other structures of society to function. Underpinning this military might and social structure is the core economy of Rome, centred relentlessly on resource management. You recognise that agriculture is without question at the very heart of Rome's economy. A majority of the populace you observe is involved in farming, making it the primary economic driver. The fertile Italian peninsula, with its favourable Mediterranean climate, is ideally suited for agriculture, producing abundant surpluses of wheat, barley grapes for vineyards and olives for olive groves. These staple crops don't just feed the local population, they sustain Rome's vast population, its legions and its urban centres, creating a constant cycle of production and consumption that drives the entire empire. The immense estates, or latifundia, owned by wealthy patricians are key to this agricultural engine. You see them stretching across the landscape, vast tracts of land often worked by hundreds of slaves or tenant farmers. This land ownership, you realise, is a primary source of power and wealth. Concentration cementing the elite's control over the very means of sustenance for the empire. The agricultural output not only feeds Rome, but also generates the wealth that supports its political and military ambitions, creating a direct link between the land and imperial power. Beyond agriculture, Rome is a bustling hub of commerce, its markets teeming with goods from all corners of the known world. You observe goods flowing in from every province, transported via an unparalleled network of well-maintained roads and vital sea routes. The Mediterranean Sea, often proudly referred to as the Roman Lake, serves as the chief conduit for this extensive trade. Imagine the ships arriving at bustling Roman ports like Ostia, grain from Egypt, providing the daily bread for millions, exotic spices from the east tantalizing the palates of the wealthy, and tin from distant Britain essential for bronze production. This influx of goods enriches the empire, providing a diverse array of resources and supporting a vibrant merchant class. Local craftsmen also play a crucial role, producing goods like pottery, textiles and metalwork, not just for local consumption, but often for export across the empire. You might walk through a market and hear the cacophony of vendors hawking their wares, the clinking of coins as transactions take place, and the mingling aromas of exotic spices with local produce, a constant, overwhelming testament to global commerce. This vast economic reach and diversity ensure that Rome at its peak is a truly interconnected world power, its economy driven by both local production and an astonishing network of international trade. And at the very foundation of this economic prosperity, as you've already noted, is slave labour. Slavery is deeply ingrained and underpins much of the Roman economy. You see them everywhere, a constant exploitable workforce, performing a wide range of tasks across all sectors. From agriculture to domestic service, from construction to mining, their labour provides the cheap and plentiful manpower necessary to maintain the empire's scale. Their ceaseless toil contributes significantly to Rome's wealth and prosperity, despite the often harsh and brutal conditions they endure, creating immense suffering at the base of the economic pyramid. This inherent cruelty is an undeniable foundational reality of Roman life, a silent testament to the human cost of empire. Roman engineering prowess too is vital for the smooth functioning of this complex economy. You marvel at the intricate network of roads and bridges built with astonishing precision and durability that expedite trade and military movement across vast distances. These roads aren't just for legions, they are arteries of commerce, allowing goods to flow efficiently across the empire. Aqueducts. Those ingenious channels transport fresh water to cities, facilitating not just public baths and sanitation, but also powering industries like mills and workshops. The vast underground sewer system, the Cloaca Maxima, maintains cleanliness in the urban centres, all contributing to a functioning urban economy that can support millions. You understand that infrastructure is not just about convenience. It's about the very capacity of Rome to sustain its population and its power. Despite the outward prosperity and engineering marvels, you quickly learn that the Roman economy is not without its significant challenges, particularly in resource management. Recurring issues like inflation are a constant threat, often driven by the empire's incessant military campaigns, which demand vast resources, and by the debasement of currency. Emperors needing funds sometimes reduce the precious metal content of coins, leading to economic instability and making it harder for common people to make ends meet. You might experience prices fluctuating unpredictably, making long-term planning difficult, and adding another layer of anxiety to daily life. Furthermore, the stark gap between rich and poor is an ever-present reality. Wealth is heavily concentrated in a small elite, the patricians and equestrians, who own vast estates and control lucrative businesses. This highlights inherent inequalities in resource distribution and economic opportunity, fueling social tensions that occasionally simmer and at times boil over into unrest. You witness the opulence of the wealthy, contrasting sharply with the poverty of the masses, a visible reminder of the fundamental unfairness embedded in the system. Amidst these economic realities, you also recognize nature's relentless fury and the universal threats that constantly loom over Roman existence. While Rome may not face the same specific natural disasters as, for example, feudal Japan, it contends with pervasive urban threats rooted in its environment and infrastructure. Fire, you understand, is a constant threat in the densely packed, poorly constructed insulae. You've experienced the fear, the ominous glow of a night fire in the distance, the acrid smell of smoke carried on the wind, the panicked shouts of residents echoing through the narrow alleys as entire blocks are consumed in flames. This leads to frequent destruction and tragic loss of life, a terrifying reality for urban dwellers, a stark reminder of your vulnerability. Buildings collapsing due to poor construction or maintenance also pose a continuous danger, particularly for those living in the upper, cheaper floors of the insulae. You live with the knowledge that your very shelter could betray you, a constant low-level anxiety. The creaks and groans of an old building, the sudden sound of falling debris from a nearby structure. These are daily reminders of your inherent vulnerability to the physical world, emphasizing that even in the heart of the empire, safety is not a given for everyone. This constant dance with urban peril underscores how precarious daily life can be, even at the peak of Roman power, highlighting the fragility of human existence against the backdrop of ambition and empire. Beyond the visible threats of fire and structural collapse, you understand that the pervasive mention of hardship poverty and the basic diets of commoners implicitly points to the ever-present threat of famine. While public grain doles are occasionally implemented to prevent widespread unrest, these are often reactive measures, not a guarantee of consistent food security. Famine can be exacerbated by poor harvests, heavy taxes levied by the state, or corrupt officials who divert resources for personal gain, particularly in the provinces. You know that a bad season or a disruption in the vital grain shipments from Egypt could quickly push vast numbers of people to the brink of starvation, turning an already difficult existence into a desperate struggle for survival. This underlying vulnerability to food shortages is a silent, constant anxiety shaping economic policies and individual choices. Despite the Roman Empire's relatively advanced sanitation for its time, its aqueducts and sewer systems, disease remains a universal threat. You witness epidemics sweeping through cities, claiming lives indiscriminately. While public health efforts like clean water supply and the Cloaca Maxima are critical countermeasures, they can only mitigate, not eliminate the risk. You understand that a simple cough could turn into a fatal illness, that a minor wound could become infected, leading to a slow and painful death. The lack of comprehensive medical knowledge beyond basic surgery and herbal remedies means that illness is often met with resignation and prayer. This pervasive vulnerability to disease ensures that even in times of peace and prosperity, life is fragile, and death is an ever-present companion, underscoring the limitations of ancient technology against the microscopic world. You also observe that compared to modern systems, there is a notable lack of formal large-scale governmental relief efforts for individual citizens suffering from widespread environmental or economic catastrophes. While public grain doles existed to prevent unrest and perhaps some local charity, there was no comprehensive safety net. If your home burned down or your crops failed, you were largely left to fend for yourself, relying on family patrons or the meagre kindness of strangers. This absence of state-level intervention for individuals suffering beyond maintaining social order means that personal resilience and community ties are paramount for survival. You recognize that in this era, self-reliance is not just a virtue, but a necessity shaping the individual's response to the relentless fury of nature and the unpredictable whims of fate. This overarching framework of social strata and economic realities, combined with the constant threats of nature, creates a distinct environment in which power is explicitly wielded, control enforced, and human responses range from subtle navigation to open defiance. It defines the political and military landscape of the Roman Empire at its peak, a testament to both its organizational genius and its inherent brutality. You understand that every aspect of your daily life, from the bread you eat to the relative safety of your home, is shaped by these macro forces, a colossal interplay of human ambition and natural constraints. Within this grand framework, the unyielding power hierarchy is very much in practice a palpable force that shapes every aspect of your life. The Roman Empire at its core is an autocracy, with the emperor holding supreme power. Yet you observe a fascinating political dance. A careful illusion of the republic is maintained. Emperors rarely rule as absolute tyrants in name, often seeking the Senate's approval for their decrees, or presenting themselves as the first citizen princeps rather than an outright monarch. This isn't out of weakness, but a shrewd political strategy to maintain legitimacy, respect traditions, and placate the powerful senatorial class. You recognize that even supreme power benefits from the veneer of ancient customs. The imperial court, known as the Domus, serves as the administrative hub of this vast empire. It's not just the emperor's private residence. It's a complex, bustling web of officials, advisors, freedmen, and even highly placed slaves, all working to administer the daily functions of the state. You understand that this court is often a hotbed of intrigue, a place where factions constantly vie for imperial favour. Courtiers, generals, and even the emperor's closest advisors engage in a perpetual struggle for influence, power, and wealth. Whispers, alliances, and betrayals are common, making it a dangerous and exhilarating environment where a single misstep can lead to disgrace, exile, or worse. You observe the subtle gestures, the guarded conversations, and the shifting loyalties that define this constant struggle for influence. The Senate, as you've learned once, held enormous sway during the Republic, enacting laws, controlling finances, and administering justice. Under the Empire, its power largely becomes symbolic. It primarily endorses imperial legislation, rubber-stamping the emperor's decisions, but its existence still provides a semblance of a check and balance to absolute rule. Its long history and the collective prestige of its members lend an aura of tradition and continuity, which even the most powerful emperor must acknowledge. You might witness a senatorial debate, recognizing that while their direct power to oppose the emperor is limited, their collective voice and symbolic authority still matter, if only to legitimize the imperial will. This strict hierarchy, cascading from the emperor down through various magistrates, the consuls, praetors, aedils, quaestors, and censors, and through the military leaders demands unquestioning obedience. You understand that this is the glue that holds the vast empire together. Order is enforced with an iron fist, and any challenge to authority, whether from rebellious provinces or internal dissent, is met with swift and brutal suppression. This cascading obedience ensures that the emperor's will, once expressed, translates into action across thousands of miles, a testament to the empire's organizational genius. And it is the Roman military machine, as you have already noted, that is the ultimate enforcer of this power. You understand that this is the most formidable army of its time, a professional standing army of legions and auxiliaries. Their discipline, training, and strategic prowess are legendary. You might observe a legionary on patrol, his presence a constant reminder of Rome's watchful eye, both a protector and a stern enforcer. The Roman navy, though often less in the spotlight, ensures that the vital sea routes for trade and communication remain secure, essential for the empire's security and prosperity. Together, these military forces ensure that the vast complex system of power, governance and resource flow remains intact, crushing any opposition and extending Roman authority to the farthest reaches of its dominion. This intricate system of power control and human resilience defines the essence of life during the peak of the Roman Empire. Within this tightly controlled system, Rome's legal and enforcement mechanisms are remarkably sophisticated for their age, providing a framework for societal order that has influenced civilizations for millennia. You learn that Roman law is not a simple collection of rules, but a complex evolving system of statutes, legal principles, and court decisions. It's built on foundational principles of justice and the rule of law, attempting to create a standardized system that could apply across its vast, diverse empire. You might hear whispers of the 12 Tables, an early code that established legal precedents, forming the bedrock upon which centuries of legal development were built. This concept of a codified written law, accessible at least theoretically to all citizens, is a revolutionary idea for its time. Notably, Romans are among the first to establish certain legal concepts that you might take for granted today. The idea of innocent until proven guilty, for instance, emerges in Roman legal thought, placing the burden of proof on the accuser. While not always perfectly applied in practice, especially for the less privileged, it represents a significant step towards a more equitable justice system. Courts and judges are in place to enforce the law, dealing with a wide range of issues from property rights to criminal law. You might witness a public trial in the forum, observing the arguments, the evidence presented, and the eventual judgment, recognizing that even this process, for all its occasional flaws, aims for a semblance of fairness and order. However, despite these advancements, you cannot ignore the immense legal authority held by the paterfamilias. His patria potestas over his kin, his wife, children, and slaves, represents a direct, immediate form of legal authority within the household. He can make life-altering decisions without external legal recourse, a reflection of the concentrated power structure that begins at the family level. You understand that while public law seeks to regulate the wider society, the paterfamilias effectively act as judge-jury, and sometimes executioner within his own domain, at least in theory, showcasing the limits of public legal intervention in private family matters. Crucially, you also recognise that individual rights, as you understand them, are largely absent for many segments of the population. For slaves who are considered property, there are no rights whatsoever, a stark reminder of the inherent inequalities embedded in Roman society. For plebeians, rights were initially limited. They had to collectively fight for political concessions such as the right to have their own tribunes to protect their interests, and for greater representation in government. This highlights the inherent inequalities of the system, where rights were often earned through struggle and collective action, rather than being universally bestowed. The idea of a universal Bill of Rights protecting every individual regardless of status is still centuries away. Moreover, you become acutely aware that the ideal of justice is often undermined by pervasive corruption. Corruption was rampant in the Roman government. You hear stories of rigged elections, common bribery to influence decisions, and wealthy individuals buying political offices outright. Politicians often use their positions to amass personal fortunes, sometimes at the expense of the public good. Courts, too, are often biased in favour of the wealthy and influential. You might observe a case where a rich defendant, despite clear evidence, receives a lighter sentence, while a poor individual faces the full harshness of the law. This demonstrates that justice, for all its theoretical sophistication, could be unevenly applied, particularly against the less privileged, a persistent flaw in the system that created a constant undercurrent of resentment and injustice. Amidst the grand legal pronouncements and the shadowy dealings of corruption, you also observe the Roman state's more practical, almost mundane efforts to ensure public safety and stability, particularly within its teeming urban centres. A prime example is the existence of a Roman fire brigade. In a city like Rome, with its densely packed, often shoddily constructed insular fire, was a relentless and terrifying adversary. You've experienced the fear, the acrid smoke, the panicked shouts. To counter this constant threat, organised units of freedmen and slaves known as the Vigils served as both police and firefighters. Their presence, though perhaps not always effective against a rapidly spreading blaze, reflects a specific mechanism of urban control and emergency response. A crucial effort to protect property and life in a city perpetually on the brink of conflagration. You might hear their shouts or see their equipment, buckets, axes, and sometimes even rudimentary pumps as they rush through the narrow streets battling the inferno, a vital, if often overwhelmed, line of defence. Beyond immediate emergencies, the Roman state also implemented more proactive measures to prevent widespread unrest and maintain social order. Grain doles, for instance, were a critical intervention. Recognising that a hungry populace was a dangerous populace, the state often provided subsidised or free grain to its poorer citizens, particularly in Rome. This wasn't necessarily an act of benevolence in the modern sense, but a strategic move to ensure food availability and prevent famine-induced riots. You might see long queues forming at distribution points, a testament to the daily struggle for sustenance for many, and a subtle acknowledgement by the state of its responsibility to its citizens' basic needs, at least to the extent of maintaining stability. Public doctors, though not universally available or always effective, also represent state-level interventions designed to prevent disease and maintain public health. While individual medical care varied wildly and was often expensive, the existence of public health infrastructure like the aqueducts and sewers you've seen, combined with some medical practitioners available to the public, speaks to a collective effort to manage health challenges. You understand that in a densely populated city, disease could spread like wildfire, threatening not just individuals but the very fabric of society. These measures, from fire brigades to grain doles and public doctors, act as state-level interventions, not necessarily for individual comfort, but to maintain the overall stability and prevent widespread unrest, ensuring the continued functioning of the Roman system. This intricate web of power, from the emperor's precarious rule to the sophisticated legal system and the practical measures of urban management, paints a picture of a society where control is paramount. But even within such a structured environment, human responses are varied, ranging from subtle navigation of the system to quiet forms of dissent, and sometimes to open defiance. You now turn your attention to the shadow of death, and honour understanding how these concepts also serve as powerful tools of societal control, shaping the choices and destinies of Romans. The shadow of death, you observe, hangs heavy over Roman society, often wielded by the state as the ultimate tool of control and a potent reminder of its absolute power. While not ritual suicide, public spectacles like gladiatorial games, which you've already glimpsed, served a dual-purpose entertainment and a chilling demonstration of the state's authority over life and death. You've heard the roar of the crowd, seen the gladiators enter the arena. These fights, often to the death, transform transgression and subjugation into public spectacle. Imagine the condemned criminal forced into the arena battling not for freedom, but for a slim chance of survival, his life literally on display for thousands. It's a brutal, visceral form of punishment designed not just to punish the individual, but to terrify and awe the masses, reinforcing the state's might. Other executions in the Colosseum or public squares also serve as grim demonstrations of Roman power. You might witness a criminal being thrown to wild beasts or crucified, a public performance of retribution. These events, often sponsored by emperors and wealthy elites, are powerful instruments of intimidation, sending an unmistakable message about the consequences of defying Roman law or authority. They are designed to instill fear, to deter rebellion, and to foster a collective sense of awe for the Roman state. You understand that in Rome the ultimate punishment is not just the taking of life, but the public display of that, taking a spectacle designed to control and unify the populace through fear. Beyond the physical act of death, the concept of honour plays an immense role in societal control. You've already learned about dignitas, an individual's influence, and standing, which is closely tied to honourable service and public contributions. Bringing shame or dishonour upon oneself or one's family could have devastating consequences far beyond mere social disapproval. Severe loss of status, public humiliation, exile, or even worse awaited those who brought shame. Imagine the weight of this expectation on your shoulders. Every public action, every decision is scrutinized not just for its immediate outcome, but for its impact on your dignitas and by extension your family's legacy. This pervasive cultural pressure to uphold honor acts as a powerful unspoken force, guiding behavior and ensuring conformity to Roman values. It's a subtle yet potent form of control, ensuring that individuals strive for public approval and avoid actions that would lead to public disgrace. For slaves, the shadow of death is always present, but the glimmer of hope lies in manumission. Their only hope for freedom, you understand, is often through this process by which a master could grant freedom. This highlights the immense, almost absolute power of masters over their slaves and the constrained agency of the enslaved. A slave might serve faithfully for decades, perform exceptional service, or simply appeal to a master's generosity. But ultimately their freedom is not a right. It is a gift, a privilege bestowed by their owner. You observe instances of manumission, perhaps a public ceremony, where a master touches a slave with a rod declaring them free. This act, while liberating for the individual, simultaneously reinforces the hierarchical power structure, demonstrating that even the path to freedom is controlled by the powerful. It is a constant reminder of the limited avenues for agency and the profound human struggles faced by the enslaved within this mighty empire. These deep-seated inequalities and the sheer brutality of slavery naturally give rise to seeds of discontent. You understand that frequent uprisings and rebellions, particularly in distant provinces, are not isolated incidents but stem from profound root causes. The immense suffering of peasants, for instance, due to excessive taxes levied by the state and provincial governors, or the corrupt officials who exploit them, pushes many to the brink. When combined with the implicit threat of famine due to poor harvests or resource mismanagement, these conditions create fertile ground for unrest. You hear whispers of defiance of local leaders stirring up resentment against Roman rule and of desperate people taking up arms against their oppressors. These icky-like movements resembling peasant rebellions from other historical contexts are often born of sheer desperation, a cry against unbearable hardship. Yet the Roman state is remarkably adept at social control, employing various methods to maintain its uneasy peace. Public entertainment, which you've already experienced, serves as a crucial tool. Gladiatorial games and chariot races with their thrilling spectacle and intense partisanship are explicitly used as a means to divert the population's attention from these societal problems, like pervasive poverty and glaring class disparity. You recognise that the cheers for a winning charioteer or the gasps at a gladiator's prowess offer a powerful, if temporary, escape from the harsh realities of daily life. By providing panem et circenses, bread and circuses, the emperors seek to appease the masses, keeping them fed and entertained, and thus crucially less inclined to question the political order or rise in rebellion. It's a calculated strategy, a sophisticated form of psychological control designed to maintain social stability. Despite these inherent inequalities in the rigid social system, a glimmer of hope or opportunity for some individuals exists. As you've seen, social mobility was possible to an extent. While the vast majority remained in their birth status, some individuals could rise through military service, financial success, or political ambition. These new men, as they were called, offered a compelling if rare narrative of success against the odds. This limited but present social mobility potentially diffuses some widespread discontent, offering the possibility, however remote, that one's own children or grandchildren might achieve a better life. It creates a small valve for ambition, preventing the pressure cooker of social discontent from exploding entirely by allowing a select few to climb the ladder. However, the historical record makes it clear that peasant uprisings and Icky-like movements, while sometimes achieving initial local gains or causing significant disruption, were typically met with swift and severe suppression by the formidable Roman military. You understand that the legions, with their disciplined ranks and superior organisation, were highly effective at quelling rebellions. The consequences for participants were brutal mass executions, enslavement, and the destruction of communities served as grim warnings to others who might consider defying Rome. These harsh responses reinforced the state's absolute power and ensured that widespread successful rebellion was rare, ultimately maintaining the empire's dominance through overwhelming force. The price of challenging Roman power, you realise, was almost always paid in blood. Within the Roman system, you encounter individuals who in their own tragic way embody the concept of discarded warriors, much like the Ronin of another time and place. Gladiators, for instance, perfectly fit this profile. Often slaves, condemned criminals, or prisoners of war, they are forced into a brutal profession, battling for survival and entertainment in the arena, their status far below that of free citizens. You've seen them, their lives literally on the line, fighting not for honour or country, but for the amusement of the crowd and the slim chance of living another day. They are in essence discarded by society, stripped of their identity, and forced to confront death as a daily reality. Yet despite their violent and dehumanized lives, the most successful gladiators could achieve a paradoxical level of fame and fortune. You might hear stories of a champion gladiator adored by the crowds earning immense wealth, or even rarely gaining his freedom. This represents a desperate path to recognition, a fleeting taste of glory, otherwise unattainable for people of their status. It's a tragic irony that true renown for a slave could only be found through violence and the constant threat of death. This desperate ambition, this striving for something more even in the most brutal circumstances, highlights the enduring human spirit amidst profound oppression. The sheer number of slaves throughout the empire and their often harsh and brutal treatment make them a constant underlying source of potential instability and unrest. You understand that this systemic problem, this vast oppressed population, is an ever-present risk, a simmering volcano beneath the surface of Roman prosperity. Spartacus's rebellion, though ultimately crushed, serves as a stark historical reminder of the immense destructive power that could be unleashed when the enslaved rose up. The constant need for vigilance, the omnipresent fear of a slave revolt, is a quiet but persistent undercurrent in Roman life, especially for those in positions of power. Paradoxically, the Roman military also offers a significant opportunity for social advancement, acting as a powerful counterpoint to the rigid class system and a means of integrating diverse populations. For many provincials, a career in the Roman army or navy presents a path to citizenship. After decades of loyal service, a non-citizen soldier could be granted full Roman citizenship, a life-altering reward that provided legal rights, land and prestige for themselves and their descendants. This system offers genuine opportunities for social advancement, with soldiers rewarded with land and money upon discharge. It provides an outlet for ambition and a means of integrating diverse populations into the Roman identity, fostering loyalty to the empire. At the same time, this powerful disciplined military force serves another crucial function. It can effectively suppress internal dissent. Any organised rebellion, whether from disgruntled plebeians or ambitious rivals, faces the overwhelming might of the legions. This dual role of the military offering opportunity while ensuring dominance is a testament to Rome's strategic genius. It ensures the empire's continued power and stability, making the military not just a tool of conquest, but a fundamental pillar of its social and political structure. This intricate system of power control and human resilience defines the essence of life during the peak of the Roman Empire, a delicate balance of ambition, struggle, and enduring human spirit. As you reflect on this intricate system of power, the daily struggles and the grand spectacles that defined the Roman Empire at its peak, you understand that life here was a complex tapestry of both immense opportunity and profound hardship. From the opulent domus of a patrician to the cramped, fire-prone insulae of the plebeian, from the disciplined ranks of the legions to the brutal anonymity of slave labour, every individual's existence was shaped by an unyielding social hierarchy and the relentless demands of a vast, ambitious empire. You've journeyed through the steamy public baths, tasted the simple bread of the commoner and the exotic dishes of the elite, and witnessed the awe-inspiring architecture that celebrated Rome's might. You've observed the pervasive influence of family and honour, the pragmatic nature of Roman marriage, and the surprising degree of independence afforded to some Roman women, all within a patriarchal structure. The sounds of the bustling forum, the roar of the Colosseum and the quiet devotion to household gods have become familiar echoes in your mind. You've also recognised the constant threats, the omnipresent danger of fire, the quiet anxiety of famine, and the relentless march of disease, reminding you of the fragility of life, even in the heart of an indomitable power. Ultimately, you've seen how power was wielded from the emperor's carefully constructed authority to the formidable Roman legal system, often complicated by corruption. You've witnessed how the spectre of death and the pursuit of dignitas served as powerful tools of social control, shaping individual choices and destinies. And you've acknowledged the simmering discontent, the occasional sparks of rebellion, and the harsh, inevitable suppression that reinforced the empire's dominance. Yet even in this rigid system, avenues for advancement, however narrow, existed, providing glimmers of hope and opportunities for new men to rise. The story of life during the peak of the Roman Empire is not a single narrative, but a mosaic of millions of individual experiences, each shaped by their status, their environment, and their own resilience. It is a world that, for all its differences, still resonates with enduring human themes. The desire for belonging, the struggle for survival, the pursuit of power, and the search for meaning. You now carry a deeper understanding of what it truly meant to live, work, and thrive, or simply endure in a society that laid many foundations for the world, that followed a world where the echoes of Rome still subtly shape our own. Now, as the final echoes of ancient Rome begin to gently fade, allow your mind to drift away from the bustling forum, the thundering chariots, and the intricate dance of power. Let go of the rigid social hierarchies and the demanding rhythms of a day-long past. The heat of the Mediterranean sun is no longer on your skin, nor is the clamour of the city in your ears. You're no longer navigating crowded insulae or observing grand spectacles. Instead, you are safely, comfortably, and quietly here in your own space, in your own time. The struggles and triumphs of that distant era have played out, and their stories have reached their gentle conclusion for tonight. Feel the soft comfort beneath you, the quiet warmth around you, and the peaceful stillness in the air. The vastness of history, once so immediate, now recedes into a soft murmuring current carrying you towards a tranquil shore. There's no need to cling to every detail, no need to fully comprehend every nuance. Just let the imagery, the sounds, and the sensations of that ancient world soften into distant memories, blending with the gentle quiet of your surroundings. Allow your breathing to deepen, your muscles to relax, and your thoughts to quiet. The challenges of the past are far behind you, replaced by the reassuring calm of the present. You're safe, you are warm, and you're ready for a deep, peaceful sleep. Let the final wisps of Rome's grandeur dissolve into the peaceful darkness cradling you as you drift into a restful night.